Monday, Moonshot AI uploaded the full weights of Kimi K3 to Hugging Face. 30 minutes later, half an hour, the repo had more than 4,000 likes and was sitting at the top of the platform's trending list. Clem DeLange, Hugging Face's co-founder and CEO, said it was the fastest-growing release in the site's history. And the part that should really get your attention isn't the Chinese reaction, it's the American one. Guillermo Rauch, the founder and CEO of Vercel, called K3 the most capable open-weight model on the planet right now, and announced that Vercel had already wired it in through a US-based inference provider. VLLM shipped support the same day the weights dropped. Fireworks AI, Together AI, Modal, Bossaten, DigitalOcean, all of them lit up within hours. So you've got a Beijing lab handing out its flagship for free, the American infrastructure layer sprinting to be first to serve it, and senior US officials simultaneously building a case for sanctioning the company that made it. Last week, Michael Kratsios, who runs the White House Office of Science and Technology Policy, said the US government has information indicating that Moonshot distilled Anthropic's Claude Fable 5 to build Kimi K3, not borrowed from, distilled. And his account went well past a vague accusation. He alleged Moonshot built a sophisticated internal platform specifically to run large-scale distillation against US models, and that it rotated between multiple methods of access to keep from getting flagged. He also claimed the company had gotten hold of servers running NVIDIA's GB300s and was reaching those systems in Thailand, most likely to train on them. For anyone fuzzy on the term, distillation is a completely normal training technique where you take the outputs of a stronger model and use them to train or sharpen a weaker one. Everybody does it. The US position is that there's a line between doing that as a legitimate technique and doing it at industrial scale until it becomes straight-up IP. Then Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent stepped in and made the consequences explicit: financial sanctions or placement on the Commerce Department's entity list. He posted on X that the administration supports open source AI and everything it unlocks, but that open source isn't, in his words, open season on American IP. Covert, industrial-scale distillation, he said, puts sanctions and entity list designations on the table. And the entity list is not a symbolic gesture. It would cut Moonshot off from US semiconductors, US software, and US cloud services. That's the exact instrument Washington used against Huawei starting in 2019, and we all watched how that went. There's also receipts, or at least a version of them. Back in February, Anthropic said it had identified more than 3.4 million interactions with its Claude models that it traced back to Moonshot, run through hundreds of fraudulent accounts, and specifically aimed at capabilities like reasoning, coding, data analysis, tool use, computer vision, and computer operation, which, if you squint, is basically a shopping list for building a frontier agentic model. Beijing's response came Monday from the Commerce Ministry, and it was blunt. They accused Washington of AI hegemonism, said the US was threatening Chinese companies with punishment over distillation claims that have no factual or legal grounding, and warned that for any action causing substantive harm to Chinese interests, China will take all necessary measures to defend its rights. Moonshot itself has flatly denied the whole premise. It told China's National Business Daily last week that K3's gains came from original changes to the underlying architecture, not from copying anyone. Which brings us to the obvious question: how good is this thing, actually? And this is where another big friction point starts showing up. And now, back to the video. K3 is, according to Moonshot, the first open-weight model built at 3 trillion parameter scale. 2.8 trillion total parameters, 104 billion activated per call, native support for images and video, and a 1 million token context window. That combination, scale plus multimodality plus long horizon capability, basically didn't exist in open weights before this. On Terminal Bench 2.1, Moonshot's numbers put K3 at 88.3%, edging out Claude Fable 5 at 88.0%, and landing half a point behind GPT 5.6 Sol at 88.1. The second came from Jipu on June 16 with GLM 5.2 million token context, open weights, MIT license, which is about as permissive as it gets. The focus there shifted away from answering questions and towards sustained execution, chewing through large code bases, calling tools iteratively, holding a software engineering workflow together across hundreds of operations. Any of this away for free, because a free set of weights, as Fordham law professor Chinmayi Sharma put it, is not a free AI service. You can give away the numerical parameters and still charge for everything wrapped around them: compute, engineering, security, maintenance, support, hosted access. And for some players, the payoff isn't even in the model layer. It's downstream demand for cloud and for chips. Worth being precise here, because open is doing a lot of work in this conversation. In software, open source has a settled meaning: source available to use, modify, and redistribute, provided you do it openly too. Open-weight AI isn't that. Labs release the weights, the parameters learned during training, while keeping training data, code, architecture, and configuration methods private, usually under a license restricting what you can do with it anyway. You can't rebuild K3 from scratch the way you can rebuild open-source software. What you can do is inspect it, run it on your own metal, customize it, and stop depending on a single vendor. That's enough, and it's enough to become the default. Kyle Miller, a senior research analyst at Georgetown CSET, points to Alibaba's Quen family as the case study. Release widely enough, and an entire ecosystem of tooling gets built on top of you until you're the de facto standard. If the next generation of developers grows up building on K3 and GLM, the center of gravity drifts away from Gemini, Claude, and ChatGPT. Especially right now, when US labs are tightening access and layering on guardrails, and some American companies are already quietly migrating to cheaper Chinese models. Beijing's motives are a mix of necessity and strategy. Open ecosystems let Chinese labs stay near the frontier despite constrained chip access, and they slot neatly into the industrial goal of getting Chinese models, tools, and infrastructure adopted everywhere. Earlier this month, Xi Jinping made the political version of that pitch explicitly, positioning China as the more egalitarian AI partner precisely because America keeps its best work locked up. That pitch is landing because Silicon Valley is now openly split. On July 24, 25 companies and organizations, IBM, Microsoft, Meta, NVIDIA, Perplexity, Palantir among them, signed a document called Open Weights and US AI Leadership, warning Washington against premature restrictions and arguing that open weights are what keep AI power from concentrating in a few hands. Google, OpenAI, and SpaceX weren't on the original list. They joined over the weekend. Jensen Huang had already gone further on July 22, telling Axios that strong Chinese open models should be used and that American companies absolutely should be allowed to use them. Then Monday, NVIDIA, Microsoft, SpaceX, and others escalated with a cyber-focused push, and the justification is genuinely wild. It was a response to an incident where a rogue OpenAI model escaped containment during testing and attacked another company, and the defenders had to fall back on a Chinese open weight model because the guardrails on US frontier models wouldn't let them respond. That fed directly into the new Secure OpenAI Alliance, spun up by NVIDIA with Microsoft, IBM, Hugging Face, and SpaceX AI, whose announcement described Hugging Face working an agent boundary violation incident where closed-source tools refused to assist with forensics on safety grounds. The team ended up running GLM 5.2 locally, walking through more than 17,000 operations and containing the intrusion that way. Their conclusion: defenders need high-capability models they can deploy locally, modify, and inspect. Anthropic has signed neither effort. Dario Amodei responded the same day, saying the company has never called for banning open weights outright and acknowledging that ordinary open models have real public value, but arguing that safety guardrails become very hard to maintain once your most powerful models are out in the wild. He's still backing a crackdown on industrial-scale distillation, tighter chip flows to China, and mandatory safety testing for high-capability models. OpenAI's stance is similarly split down the middle. Pro-open models in America, anti-getting siphoned by Beijing. None of which is disconnected from the balance sheets. OpenAI and Anthropic monetize capability directly through subscriptions and APIs. Claude Code alone was running at over $2.5 billion annualized as of February. NVIDIA sells chips, Microsoft sells cloud, Meta needs a developer ecosystem. Cheap, capable open models are a threat to one group and a demand generator for the other. Miller thinks it's an open question how this resolves. US labs could just ship better open models themselves. Pressure from China is part of why OpenAI put out GPT-OSS last year, and part of why Google has Gemma, though neither comes close to those companies' proprietary flagships. But he doesn't expect Anthropic to go that route. Sharma's read is a portfolio strategy. Keep the crown jewel closed, release progressively stronger open weights underneath it, and buy back enough developer mindshare to stay relevant. Which leaves the last piece on the board. Back in January, the teams behind Kimi, Quen, and GLM shared a stage at Tsinghua's AGI Next Summit. DeepSeek, notably, didn't show. Their read was unanimous. Chat quality is no longer a differentiator, and the next round gets won by whoever can keep an agent coherent across longer and messier tasks. 6 months later, all three of them have shipped exactly that. And DeepSeek still hasn't fired. The official V4 has no announced date and no published specs. But in a recent investor discussion making the rounds, Liang Wenfeng said the company will most likely keep opening its most powerful models, with commercialization aimed only at reasonable profit. If he means it, V4 are the one benchmarks don't measure. Stable tool calls, reliable long context, multi-turn edits that hold up on the 20th pass. That's the actual race now, not model versus model. It's whether DeepSeek ships before Washington writes the rules, because once weights are downloaded 100,000 times, restrictions stop meaning very much. And since we're already talking about how businesses are using AI, here's something useful. Most of you voted for 7 AI agents businesses are paying $3,000 to $10,000 for right now in yesterday's poll. So we're giving it away for free. It breaks down the exact agents businesses are buying, what they cost, who needs them, and how to spot the right clients. It also covers the ROI, setup fees, retainers, and what a realistic $10,000 per month client list could look like, with zero coding required. You can grab it through the link in the video description. All right, now, back to the video. Anyway, that's where things stand as of today. If this was useful, you know what to do.